Arsenal are by far the most painful team to support in the Premier League, and I would know because I'm an Arsenal fan. They've somehow managed to finish second 3 seasons in a row and are the biggest club to never win the Champions League. The last time they won the Premier League was back in 2004 when they actually managed to go the entire season unbeaten, a record that no one else has ever managed. However, in recent seasons they've continually managed to fumble everything, notably bottling the league back in 2023 after being 8 points clear of 9 games to go, finishing the season 5 points behind Manchester City. Then in 2024 they finished only 2 points behind Man City before losing out in the semi-finals of the Champions League in 2025 to PSG, after a famous 5-1 two-leg win over Real Madrid. For years, everyone's been saying they need a striker, and finally this summer they signed Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon, who scored 54 goals last season. However, their star player remains to be Bukayo Saka, Arsenal's star boy who came through the academy to become one of the best players in the world. Arsenal have won 13 league titles and 14 FA Cups, but have gone 5 years without a trophy, so they'll need to win one this season, or the pressure will start to mount on manager Mikel Arteta. Aston Villa have solidified themselves as a top Premier League side in recent years under their manager Unai Emery, finishing in the European places 3 years in a row now, even qualifying for the Champions League in 2024. Unlike Arsenal, they have actually won the Champions League before, back in 1982, as well as winning 7 league titles and 7 FA Cups. Their star player is striker Ollie Watkins, who managed 16 goals and 8 assists in the league last season, but their most exciting player is Morgan Rogers, who really broke through last season and is one to watch again this season. They'll be looking to make it back into the Champions League again this year, after a heartbreak on the final day at Old Trafford meant they missed out on it last season to Newcastle. Bournemouth are a tiny club on the south coast who got promoted to the top division for the first time in 2015. They came up again in 2022 and have stayed ever since, even managing a top half finish last season. Andoni Iraola has been playing good football, but they've lost some key players this summer, such as Dean Huijsen to Real Madrid and Kerkez to Liverpool. Their star player is Antoine Semenyo, who got 11 goals in the league last season, and Bournemouth will be hoping the likes of him, Justin Kluivert and Evan Nilsson will be enough for them to have another good season. They've never won a major trophy in their history, and I don't see that changing whatsoever this season if I'm honest. Brentford are another small club who have also never won a trophy in their history. Under Thomas Frank, they got promotion to the Premier League for the first time in 2021 and have established themselves as a consistent mid-table team. They managed a top half finish last season despite Ivan Toney leaving them, as Veteran and Bournemouth stood up to score 39 goals between them in the league, making them one of the best duos the Premier League has seen. However, this summer they've lost their manager, their captain, their goalkeeper, their best player, and it looks like their second best player is also on his way out, so it's looking like it could be a long season for them. I'll say their star player is Mikkel Damsgaard, who got 10 assists last season, as Wissa is probably going to leave them. And they've also got Jordan Henderson, who is probably washed, but at least he brings leadership to the table. Also, they made their set-piece coach their new manager. So this is either going to be a remarkable experiment or an absolute disaster. Brighton have come from nowhere to becoming a Premier League regular after getting promoted back in 2017. They spent a few years fighting relegation but are now top half regulars, even qualifying for the Europa League in 2023. Their manager is only 32 years old, but took them to an impressive 8th place finish last season, spearheaded by João Pedro. However, he's now left for Chelsea, meaning the likes of Welbeck and Matoma are going to have to step up in his absence. Their star player though is Carlos Baleba, who is an absolute monster in midfield and someone they'll be desperate to keep hold of. They also have never won a major trophy in their history, but if they keep improving, maybe that can change sometime in the near future. Burnley are back in the Premier League after a year in the Championship, where they conceded just 16 goals in 46 games under Scott Parker, smashing the previous record of 30 goals conceded. However, their attack is going to need a lot of improving if they want to stay in the Premier League for another season, and they're currently looking at signing Armando Broja, so if I'm honest, it's not looking good for them. If I'm 100% honest, I don't know who their star player is, especially now that James Trafford and Josh Brownhill have left. But if I had to pick someone, I'd say Jadon Anthony, who's joined on a permanent transfer this summer after 8 goals and 7 assists on loan last season. They have actually won the league twice in their history, as well as an FA Cup, but those days are long gone, and just managing to stay up this season would be an incredible achievement. Chelsea are somehow world champions after beating PSG in the Club World Cup this summer, which they qualified for by winning the Champions League 4 years ago. Since then they finished 3rd, 12th, 6th and 4th in the Premier League, all while spending over £1 billion under owner Todd Bowley. These guys used to be absolute nobodies until a Russian billionaire took over the club in 2003, since then winning 5 league titles, 2 Champions Leagues and 5 FA Cups. They were a laughingstock again for a few years, but they've actually built a decent team now, with the likes of Cucurella and Caicedo proving to be good signings. But their star player is Cole Palmer, who already has 43 goals and 28 assists for the club in just 2 seasons, proving himself to be one of the best players in the world. And this season the pressure is on them to break into the top 3 again for the first time in 4 years. Hey yo, you absolute bozo! Why haven't you liked the video yet? Make sure to absolutely bukkake that like button and subscribe whilst you're at it. Thank you. Crystal Palace have been in the Premier League for 13 straight years now and always finish between 10th and 15th on 41 to 49 points. Until last season, when they finally broke the 50 points mark, getting a solid 53 points under manager Oliver Glasner. And they also managed to win a trophy for the first time in their history, beating Man City 1-0 in the final to an Eberechi Eze winner. Eze is also their star player, having the best season of his career last season with 14 goals and 12 assists. However, he could be on his way to Arsenal. So I'll also mention Jean-Philippe Mateta as well, who came from nowhere to become one of the best strikers in the Premier League with his iconic style. Everton have been in the top flight for 72 straight seasons, a record only beaten by Arsenal. However, every season it seems like they're trying their best to put an end to that record, as they have a relegation battle almost every year. It looks like they're starting to pick up again under Moyes, however, and will be hoping to have a good season in their new stadium. They've won 9 league titles and 5 FA Cups, making them one of the most successful teams in the country. But they haven't won a trophy since 1995, and honestly, I'll be surprised if they win another trophy before 2095. Their star player is Iliman Ndiaye, who is capable of creating something out of nothing, grabbing 9 goals last season. Fulham got promoted back in 2022 and have been a solid mid-table team ever since. They're also Arsenal's B team with the likes of Leno, Iwobi and Smith Rowe at the club, and under Marco Silva they're a pretty solid team, not in threat of going down anytime soon. Their star player is probably Anthony Robinson, who managed 10 assists from left back last season and is also a very reliable defender. However, they're another club who have never won a major trophy, but they did get to the Europa League final back in 2010 where they lost out to Atletico Madrid. Leeds won the championship to get promoted back to the Premier League last season after getting relegated back in 2023. The last time they were here they brought excitement under Marcelo Bielsa, with the likes of Rafinha, Rodrigo and Patrick Bamford. But now they're managed by Daniel Farke, who has 2 relegations on his CV with Norwich and have a very mediocre squad. Honestly, it'll be a miracle if they stay up this season. Their star players are either Joel Perreault, who grabbed 19 goals last season, or Dan James, who had a very solid season last year. They've won 3 league titles in their history and 1 FA Cup, but realistically, just staying up this season will feel like a trophy to them. Liverpool are the current Premier League champions. They've won 20 league titles and 6 Champions Leagues, winning more major trophies than any English club. On top of that, they signed Wirtz, Frimpong, Ekitike and Kirkes this summer, not to mention already having a squad of Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson and McAllister. And they want to add Alexander Isak on top of that. How greedy! Honestly, it's looking scary for everyone else right now, because Liverpool Football Club are on flipping steroids. Of course their star player is Mo Salah, with 47 goals and assists in 38 league games last season, and the expectation is on them to go and win the league again this year. However, it also must be mentioned that the club has been through a lot this summer, with the tragic passing of Diogo Jota in July, a tragedy that the footballing world will never forget. Manchester City were completely irrelevant until they were taken over by new owners in 2008. Before that, they only had 2 league titles and had been relegated 3 times. But then they went on to spend an absolutely crazy amount of money, buying 8 league titles, 3 FA Cups and the Champions League. They became the first team to win 4 league titles in a row in 2024, but last season they completely fell off, as Pep Guardiola had a mental breakdown. It will be interesting to see if they can get back to their best this season, bringing in the likes of Cherki, Aït-Nouri and Rangers. But the return of their star player Rodri will also feel like a new signing, after missing almost the entirety of last season through injury after winning the Ballon d'Or. Also, any team with Erling Haaland up front is guaranteed goals, so they're bound to be a threat. Manchester United are the biggest bunch of bozos in the Premier League. They've won 20 league titles, 13 FA Cups and 3 Champions Leagues, but for the past 10 years they've been slowly capitulating. I thought it couldn't get any worse than when they finished 8th in 2024, but last season they finished 15th and lost a major final to flipping Tottenham. I've never seen a season so embarrassing in my life. They brought in Cunha and Berman this summer, so maybe they can improve this season, but honestly I don't have high hopes for them. Their star player is their captain Bruno Fernandes, who is a very talented player, but can also cost his team at times with his bad attitude and poor decision making. I should probably say at least one positive thing about them, so let me just say at least they're not going to get embarrassed in Europe this season, because they didn't qualify. Newcastle finally won a trophy for the first time in 70 years last season, beating Liverpool at Wembley in the Carabao Cup final, and they also qualified for the Champions League as well. Despite all that, their best player Alexander Isak is desperate to leave them, and no one seems to want to join them. All their transfer targets are rejecting them other than Elanga. They're probably having the worst transfer window I've ever seen. They've won 4 league titles in their history as well as 6 FA Cups, and it looked like with new Saudi owners they've become one of the best teams in the country, but they're struggling to sign anyone, so right now it's not looking likely. Nottingham Forest came from out of nowhere to challenge for the Champions League places last season. They were 3rd for most of the season but ended up finishing 7th. They've kept most of their squad from last season and will be looking for another solid season this year. Their star player is Morgan Gibbs-White, who looked certain to join Tottenham this summer, but ended up signing a new contract to stay at the club. Meanwhile, their striker Chris Wood shocked the world scoring 20 goals last season. They've actually won 2 Champions Leagues in their history as well, in back-to-back seasons after winning their only league title back in 1978. Sunderland are back in the Premier League for the first time since 2017, after winning the playoff final against Sheffield United. They've had a big summer as well, bringing in the likes of Enzo Lefebvre, Habib Diarra and Simon Adingra, as well as their new star player and captain, Granit Xhaka, who's had success at both Arsenal and Bayer Leverkusen. Their squad isn't the best, but they've had an exciting summer, and probably have the best chance of staying up out of the promoted teams. They've also won 6 league titles in their history, the same as Chelsea, and 2 FA Cups, making them quite a big club. Tottenham are a disgusting monstrosity of a football club and I hate them with every fibre of my being, but for purposes of this video, I will try and be unbiased. They are the smallest, most useless football club in the Premier League, who only fluked their way to Europa League trophy last season because they faced the most embarrassing team in history in the final. They've only won 2 league titles in their history, which is the same as Preston North End and Leicester Huddersfield. Their only noticeable player, Heung-min Son, has left them this summer, and they have no star players because they're all terrible. West Ham are a small team who think they're actually big. I'm sorry, I don't have anything against West Ham. Ham, I'm just in a bad mood after having to talk about Tottenham. But West Ham are actually just pretty bad. They spent a lot of money to be mid-table fodder. It's actually kind of embarrassing. They did win a European trophy a couple years ago though, which was quite cool. Their star player is Jared Bowen, who consistently gets more than 10 goals a season. He is also probably their only good player, unless Paqueta can get back to his best now he's been cleared of his betting scandal. They've never won the league, but they have won the FA Cup 3 times, as well as the Conference League, which I mentioned before. Wolves are kinda just there. They've been flirting with relegation the past few seasons, but they actually used to be quite good with back-to-back 7th place finishes. Most of their best players have moved on now, most recently Matheus Cunha to Man United. Their only standout player is Strand Larsen, who got 14 goals last season. But other than that, their team is full of a bunch of nobodies. Also, one of their players assaulted Havertz and Jesus last season, and I don't really rate that, so I hope they get relegated this season actually. They've won 3 league titles though, which of course is more than Tottenham. Anyway, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, share and subscribe. Also, follow me on TikTok if you want to see more content from me. I've been posting on there and I'm trying to get to 10k followers. And follow my Instagram as well, cause why not? In a bit, G.